Guys, it's George Groves here, the former WBA super middleweight world champion. I've started to introduce myself because I've noticed a few other podcasters do, some former world champions, and maybe people have forgot, maybe people don't know. Maybe once upon a time I fought in front of 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium, and maybe I've got to remind them, who knows. Enough of that. This is a post-fight analysis, little quick breakdown of the boxing this evening, which was Ben Whittaker taking on Liam Cameron in the rematch in Ben Whittaker's hometown in Birmingham. And it was a good fight while it lasted. Wasn't the longest of fights. But after the controversy of the first fight, you know, the question marks hung above it, above the decision, above the result, even above Ben Whittaker. Let's be honest, like, there's a lot of intrigue going into this fight, and I was looking forward to it. Breakdown of the fight. As it starts, there ain't much to break down, is there? Because, spoiler alert, Ben Whittaker stops Liam Cameron via TKO in the second round. But the first round, right, and this will just paint a picture for my broader thoughts. The first round was a really good round. I was really enjoying this fight. I thought Whittaker won the round, but contrary to a bit of the commentary, I thought Cameron was doing quite well. I believe that, you know, with Whittaker being the sharper shooter, the faster feet, you know, the taller guy with the longer range, that Cameron maybe wouldn't have found his range at all for the first 2-3 rounds, maybe even longer. But it wasn't. In that first round, he was landing that jab. And sure, they're not the fastest of shots, and he does sort of lean in and fall over the front foot a little bit with it, but it's effective and it lands, and his guard is really tight. Whittaker don't really get much through. He definitely don't get any big shots through. And by the end of the round, Cameron lands a decent right hand of his own. So if I'm in the Cameron team, I'm sitting him down in the corner, I would say, this is a fantastic start, buddy. Like, I think you're doing great. And I'm sure Cameron was feeling good himself after that first round. And Whittaker looked much more nervous than he usually does. And he does sort of take a little bit of time to settle in. And because of all that flashy style and bravado that he loves to do, that sometimes that's masked behind, you're not sure. Is it a bit of nerves? Is it just the way he is? It's hard to tell. In the second round, he does what you think he can do, you know he can do, you've seen it time and time again, but the question mark would be that since his link up with Andy Lee, is he going to start punching with authority? Is he going to start punching hard? Is he going to start hurting people? And he does. He bounced off that back foot, he drops back, sharp right hand after Cameron falls short with his shot, I think it must have been a jab, and the sharp right hand comes over the top, and Cameron is shook to his boots. Certainly, you can see that. There's all different types of buzzing. There's that buzzing where you see the bright light, sometimes you can see stars, sometimes you can taste it in your teeth, and sometimes it lands right in the soles of your feet, and that's what it does for Cameron at that point. Whittaker, to his credit, fantastic, raids on him, goes head, goes body. Cameron ends up in the corner, and there is another little dip of the legs as he's punching at him. And then the compassionate referee that he is, Howard Foster, dives in and calls a halt to the fight. Now, I'm sure this is going to be pretty split about what people think about his decision right there and then. And we know he's a compassionate referee. We know he stops fights early. I know he stops fights early, yeah. For me tonight, too early, mate. Too early. Now, you haven't got an easy job. It's not an easy job. And maybe you was preventing the inevitable. But for Liam Cameron, for who he is and how far he's come, mate, I'd have given him a bit more. I'd have given him a bit more time. He's a grown man, a grown-ass man. He's 31 years of age. And if you know the Liam Cameron story, he spent 4 years on the bench. He served a drugs ban. And most people who serve a drugs ban have no sympathy with boxing fans. Usually for me, no sympathy whatsoever. But for him, he was, you know, maybe a bit of naivety or just some bad advice. You know, he gets caught with cocaine in his system. He's got a reason or an alibi, if you wish, for that or not. Whichever way you wish to believe that, that's fine. But he serves 4 years for a recreational drug when we know people get caught with far worse and serve far less time. So, as the UK anti-doping ambassador for the British Boxing Board of Control, I do not condone any drug taking whatsoever. But this guy, at 31 years of age, he ain't going to get many more chances. And his life changed the first time he fought Whittaker. And then the bizarrity and the craziness that happens in that in that fight and the injury and what comes, but he gets the rematch. And tonight, I think he started well. He got caught, but he should have been able to have weathered that storm. I don't care if he hits the floor. If I'm Cameron, he's probably thinking, I'll go out on my shield. He might have got knocked spark out. And then people say, well, where does he go from there? The question is, where does he go from this anyway? You know? But he's a tough, tough man. He's a strong man. Who knows? He might have been dropped and been out. He might have took a couple more shots and managed to hold on to Whitaker. He might have dropped to his knee and tried taking 8. He might have just weathered the round and then maybe struggled for the next couple of rounds. But then maybe he would have got back into the fight. So for me, it's premature stoppage. It was stopped too early. And even if you are stopping the inevitable, in the second round, you're not saving someone in terms of their health, in my opinion. You're not. When it's late, when you're dehydrated, when you're tired, when you're fatigued, when you've already took a lot of punches, and punches from 15 minutes ago, because you got caught in the second round and now you're in the 10th, that's very different to when you get caught, a couple of seconds later you get raided, and you ain't got your legs under you quite yet, but you don't need to get stopped. Not at this level, not at main event level. So, shame for Liam Cameron there. I hope he bounces back. I hope we see a bit more of him because he's good for boxing. He's a great character. Right, so what next for Ben Whittaker? So he's put to bed that history now with Liam Cameron. You know, he has to have. Whether I think it's premature stoppage or not, it doesn't matter. He wins via second round TKO. He's done the business. He's done the job, right? What's new about Ben Whittaker? So he's linked up with Andy Lee, right? Which I think for him is a brilliant, brilliant link up. I think Andy Lee is, he's a knowledgeable guy. He's certainly someone who's been around all different types of characters within boxing, big characters, knowledgeable characters. He's travelled the world. So, and he's astute. He's clever. He sat ringside and called fights, and now he's been in the gym long enough now, working as a coach, to know how to train a fighter, you know. And I'm sure just knowing him as a person, he doesn't think he's a finished article when it comes to training. He knows he's going to keep improving. The more he learns, the more he exposes himself to different fighters that he exposes himself to as well. I mean, Whitaker, I think he's one of the best talents, like one of the best boxers we have here in the UK. So you can't fault him for his coaching prior, you know. What it will be now for him is how to teach him going from an amateur to being a pro, being a solid pro, being a well-rounded pro. And also, like, if there's anyone out there who can help him navigate his way to the top whilst now becoming infamous on Instagram. Like, he's famous. But it's quickly become apparent that, you know, his flashiness, you know, it gets views, sure, but it's alienating him from the boxing world, the boxing crowd. You know, the people who come and see him tonight in his hometown were booing him. Now, Cameron, he is a popular chap. He's a likeable guy. He's an everyday man, every man's man. You can relate to him in so many ways, so many different people can. So he's a tough one to go up against. But the fact that essentially he should have and could have humbled him tonight with that win, he should have won over a lot of fans, but it didn't sound like that on the telly, from the crowd, from what we got. And I don't want him to dial down them ring entrances. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of that one. I don't think it was on par with some of the other ones he's had, you know, with the ballerina, the piano, and a few others that he's had that were pretty cool. But at the same time, as soon as the fight's finished, he runs over to Cameron's corner. He sticks his head right through the ropes. He's almost nose to nose with Grant Smith in the corner. And he doesn't spit at him, or at least I don't think he does. But so you can see on the slow-mo, something comes out of his mouth. But the fact that he's actually gone over there and done that at that point, it just doesn't feel like that fight had that much needle. You know, it shouldn't have. So and he needs to think about these things. He really needs to think about these things because it will alienate him from, you know, people who want to pay money to watch him box. And he doesn't want to become that person who people want to see get beat, you know, because he's flashy and because he is talented and because there's a bit of jealousy there because he's famous. But he's got to be careful. He could be on that slippery slope. Maybe you don't care. maybe doesn't care. But Andy Lee in his corner, I think, who is just genuinely a lovely guy, who people worldwide who know him, you know, boxing fans are like him. He's a likable guy. And we've seen him now recently, Andy. I know he's been in Tyson Fury's corner, and Fury's taken slack, and he's at times defended his friend or his fighter, as well as like not and sort of battered away issues. Lately he had Donovan, wasn't it? It was Paddy Donovan out. I think he was in Ireland against Lewis Crocker, and it was Marcus McDonnell who it was disqualification. And I saw a clip of Andy Lee after the fight. Now, whether you agreed with what he said or not, right, you can't dispute how well he articulated himself and the points that he had standing up for his fighter. And tonight in the ring, when Andy Scott from Sky sort of questions Whitaker about the shenanigans after, and he says on the monitor, it looks like you spat, and then Andy Lee is straight in there. Now, there's no way Andy Lee has seen that at that point, but he's already ready. And for me, as a man of boxing, now a coach, an analyst, a former fighter, I can only say, wow, that's incredible from Andy Lee right there and then to put Andy Scott right back in his place. And Andy Scott's not out of his place for questioning it at this point. But Andy Lee delivers a very good speech about what his fighter's been through, what his fighter is, the person he is, and also about how excited he is for the future. So credit to Andy Lee, and I think credit to Ben Whittaker, because when you think about it, yeah, he probably has been through the mill, and it's very difficult for him to convey that perfectly in the moment, especially. But he does allude to the fact that he's sort of holding his hands up and saying, I blew up, man. I blew up. I got famous and it went to my head a little bit. But now I've took myself off the island and I'm regrounding myself. Because when you meet Ben, he's a lovely guy. And you hear that time and time again about people who are large in life characters on screen, but in real life, they're very different. He's still that. He still backs himself in, on screen, off screen, on camera, off camera. But at the same time, he's got a lot of likable qualities. So, I hope that, he's managed well in that part of his career, and I'm sure he will be with Andy Lee. So, Ben Whittaker back to winning ways, Who next? Is it Carol Itoma? Is it, who are the other light heavyweights now? So we don't want to rush him in there with a Buatsi or a Callum Smith who's flying, but who else have I written down here? Let's have a look. So we've got, he's ranked number 12 now in GB with BoxRec, which, BoxRec's BoxRec, just go off your wins and that. But yeah, you've got Dan Aziz, Lyndon Arthur, Craig Richards even, and I think they're the guys he should be looking at next. Some guys who have boxed at a much higher level than he has, but had a couple of losses, but proper big solid light heavyweights. Cameron obviously moved up recently, but Cameron gave Lyndon Arthur a tough night's work. Arthur got the win. Is he looking at one of those type of guys? I'd like to see it. And a quick roundup of the undercard. So chief support, you had Lee Cutler in against Sam Edgington. That finished with... It's disappointing, of course, for a Lee Cutler fan, and I am a Lee Cutler fan. I've watched him fight live, and he's also just a lovely guy. Didn't really get into his rhythm earlier on, and I think Sam Edgington maybe even shocked him with how long his shots were and how... Well, he found the range straight from the get-go, so then Cutler had to change his tactics. So you imagine the second half of the fight, the tail end of the fight, where Cutler wants to sit long, drop long, little drop backs, and then come in and sharp shooting. And if he has to sit in the pocket, be a strong man, which is what he is. Because he was getting touched and getting caught early, he couldn't do that. He didn't start sharp enough for me. So then he had to take the fight to Sam Edgington, and even inside, he just was a fraction off a little bit. And Edgington's big and he's strong and he's long. I don't know how hard he punches when you're in there with him, but he's definitely got strength on the inside. So he was winning those early rounds for me as well against Lee Cutler. But Lee Cutler was coming into it in the second half of the fight. There's a clash of heads. There's multiple clash of heads. Both guys are cut to ribbons, but and it is from head as far as certainly the first one, and I'm not sure if that's the one that the bout eventually gets stopped on. But if it goes to the scorecards, you know, Lee Cutler's guy, that's just terrible timing, because if it had gone on a few more rounds, then maybe he would have been back in action and he might have been able to secure the win tonight, and that would have been a huge win for him straight off the magnificent run he's been on. But credit to Edgington, 31 years of age, he's been in so many big fights, 9 losses on his record, but he's winning. And against Lee Cutler, that's going to be one of his best wins, honestly. I know he's fought at a really high level, but Lee Cutler is a very good fighter. So, you know, it's a strange one. It gets stopped on cuts. It goes to scorecards. Does that mean we want to see it run back, want to see it again? I'm sure Lee Cutler would be desperate for that rematch. I'm sure he'll believe that he could do a lot better than what he did that night. It was great to watch, and if they can make that again, then I'll certainly sign up for it. But if Edgington has the opportunity now to fight for a major title or an even bigger name, then you can't go against him for that. Also on the card, Fraser Clark back to winning ways. He boxes Tete, who we've seen a couple of times over the years. Big enough heavyweight, dangerous, but Fraser Clark, to his credit, you know, and he sort of says it in the post-fight interview, finally, you know, he comes out and makes that bit of a statement, smashes up this guy, and you expect him to have done that, and you certainly would have expected him to have done that, you know, maybe after his 7th or 8th fight, but the fact that he's come back after that devastating loss against Wardley, back to winning ways, I'm really happy for him. I think he boxed, you know, there wasn't much to it, but he was boxing well, he was dropping back, he was light on his feet, he looked up for it. And then when he put his shots together, boom, job done. So, yeah, that one wasn't stopped early. And that's the roundup of the boxing tonight. There's going to be loads more of action on the GGBC, the George Groves Boxing Club, in the lead up to the big fight next weekend, Saturday, where Chris Eubank Jr. takes on Conor Benn. What is that being billed as? I keep forgetting it. Is it like Legacy Continued or something or other? So, yeah, we're going to try and get involved as much as possible, drop loads of content on you that week. I want to thank our sponsors, Coin Poker, for backing us entirely, and we're going to be on the Coin Poker tables Sunday night. Me, the Frotch, Audley Harrison, Big John, Bush, Fisher. We're going to be there talking boxing and playing poker, and I'll be taking their money. So do not miss out on that, and I'll see you guys soon.